Hi everyone, it's Harry the Soul Coach, and this video is for anyone that has a connection with God and wants to strengthen that connection, anyone that wants to have a better understanding of God, anyone that's on a spiritual journey, and anyone that's just interested in learning knowledge, wisdom, our history. And I've been on a journey, and over the last year or so, I have had a stronger connection with God. And I've been diving into truth for a long time. And it's led me to a path now where there's a lot more clarity for me. I'm an avid meditator. And on my channel, you can see I put on a number of meditations, my own creations. And within some of these experiences, I am with God. And the later understanding, which is all backed up through the text, is that I am God. I'm an aspect of God. I've been created in God's image, And the journey, the spiritual journey that I've been on, and especially in this truth movement, I've then met a lot of people from a religious background. And it's always been resistance that's thrown at me when it comes to religion, especially when it comes to the Bible and Jesus Christ. And I put up a lot of blocks initially, and usually it's because of the way it was delivered, preachers, the messengers, church. And a lot of people have shared the same experiences from their upbringings. And when you go into these meditation spaces, which is God, it's love. So I've never understood when people do get angry or triggered, and I just know it's a lack of understanding. I know that they haven't had that experience with God. And our descriptions of God, the way it's been passed down to us, is so limited. Words is how we describe a lot of things. Words is a language. It's how we communicate and how we connect with each other. And it's also how we tell stories. And a lot of the stories when it comes to God is from one perspective, one story, one book, one idea, one concept, and it's repeated. Yet God is everything. God's created all things. And we live in a world which is full of people from different cultures, from different places, from different backgrounds, from different pastimes. That's all God's creation. So when there's resistance to what other people have had to say about God, it doesn't make sense if we're not given the time to actually go and listen. Another thing that's really important is the world has been going a lot longer than we all have been here. And we learn from our elders. We go back in past, and a lot of the time that's been tampered with our history. So it's quite hard to accept. So there's certain ideologies that we have followed, and then again, the barriers come up to write off everything. So we're going through an awakening right now. With what's going on in the world, we can see there's a lot of events happening. There's a lot more information being shared with us. There is a lot more understanding of what has been going on in this world, and a lot of our life has been a big lie. And we are in biblical times. It is going to get to that point where God is going to reveal himself. And I'm going to say he, but God's a lot bigger than a he. So I've been doing a lot of my own research, because to know God, it only can come from you. It's your experience, it's your life, it's your senses, it's your body. It only can come through you. We're all the disciples of God. We're all children of God. And it's the way that we explain it. And when you have a knowing, you put it into your own words. People might not even use words. They express themselves in other ways. Any sort of creation's God. So if you're singing, if you're writing lyrics, if you're painting, if you're dancing, that's elements of God. It's co-creating, it's passion, it's play, it's purpose. So all these are so powerful. So it excites me. So I've been going back and looking at, first of all, Jesus Christ and the Bible. And my understanding now of the stories of the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament. I'll leave a link up here for a few of my talks that I have done. And it helps people have a lot more clarity. And again, these are all pointers. They're all stories, they're all allegories. They're all written by a number of people that are tuning into God's frequency, and Jesus Christ is the character. However, along this journey, I've also heard names like the Buddha, Hare Krishna. When we look into Taoism, the Tao, there's all these different teachings from around the world. And again, when I was first put God and religion in front of me, it was dismiss everything else. There's only one God. And that sort of people, they'll go straight to the book. So I've gone back to the oldest religion, and it's Hinduism. And I've also then looked at the teachings of the Buddha too. So I'm going to share with you just a few passages and parables from a recent book that I'm reading, or in fact, I'm listening to. I connect with the words a lot more when it's actually spoken to me. But I'm having a conversation with someone who's my teacher. And where we are right now, and the word new age and gatekeepers, and they play off each other. And then there's all these different people telling you certain things that's repeated from someone else. And it all seems to be searching outside of ourselves. It all seems to come from people where there's a lack of passion. There's a lack of knowledge. It doesn't flow out of them. And there's no connection there. And the truth, as I keep saying with my soul coaching, is so simple. Your soul is the truth. Your soul is the Son of God. God is everything. So God is the truth. So when people say, no, 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 that's not it, that's not how it is, that's not right, that word not, it ties you in a knot. You're going to have to come back to it at some point when you have that understanding what God is. So I started off looking at the Upanishads, which is from the Vedic text. And straight away, if you look at the Upanishads, it's one of the oldest forms of Hinduism from the Vedas. And the four things was meditation, philosophy, consciousness, and knowledge. And that's everything that I'm about anyway. I listened to the book, and it's been translated really well. Simple teachings, really powerful stuff. And again, if you listen to it, it's just truth ringing all through you. Then you've got the main book that a lot of people recognize is the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. And that actually represents God's song. And if you look at the word Bhagavad, that's the word of God. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this, because we always say God started with the word in the Bible, and everyone holds on to that. But God is all things. And the way that God communicates with us, God's communicating with us all the time. And we're so blinded. We're not paying attention. God comes through us through messengers, through animals, through creation, through the sun, through the sea. We're not paying attention. We miss the signs. God then speaks to us through people. And we're not even accepting it when it is God, because we've got our own idea of what God is and what we've been told and we're looking for. So we're getting to that stage now where God's going to be speaking to us through the collective. So we're all going to have a reunion with God. It's going to be so clear. And this is what the Great Awakening for me is. So the word of God and God's song. And the whole premise of the book is a guy having a conversation with God. So it's the individual self and the supreme self. So we just translate that again into the soul coaching. It's the soul and God. Father and Son. And again, if you listen or read through it, it's simple, simple stuff. And all it does is just adds to your understanding of God as a whole, wholeness, as a oneness. And the way that we can then start appreciating if God is all things and God is speaking to us, you start noticing signs more. You start understanding, whoa, I'm paying attention now. I'm feeling a lot more. I'm getting that connection. And then I started going on to the Dhammapada, which is Buddhist text, which is kind of a crossover too. And you hear about the Buddha, and the way that that book's broken down, again, it's so simple. I then used the same teachers and the same sages that do a breakdown on the Beatitudes, which is the parables of Jesus, but they then give their own interpretation of it. It's the same message. truth, love, freedom, God. It's all the same, all of it. So I'm on a book at the moment, and I listen to Audible, and every day, at least hour and a half. I can show you my times. I read and listen a lot. I've always got different books on the go. I've got about 6 on the go at the moment, but this one I'm really like fixated on it. I also go to bed, and I'll replay a chapter before I go to bed, and I put my timer on 15 minutes, and usually on my books I've gone. I know it stays in because the next time I replay that part, it's like I have heard it. However, this book, I'm putting the time on for 30 minutes. I'm still awake listening to it. Like, it's really got me, and it's gravitated towards me. So Ramakrishna is a sage who was around the 1800s, and his wisdom, again, it's so simple. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, because one, I'm encouraging you, like, these are all teachings that we can go and learn. And if you're interested in learning more, this is going to be our next step. Like, this is the awakening. This is what people have been hiding from us and deceiving us from, is because it is so simple. Two, when you start seeing the spiritual world and you're seeing the way that people are delivering a message, usually I keep saying it's a lot of it's from fear, a lot of it's triggered, a lot of it's argumentative, a lot of it's dismissive, and beyond all that, it's overcomplicated. And when I first come back, so my mum and dad live at the south of the UK, and I was living out in Brazil. They moved down. They moved out of London and moved down to the south of the UK. So when I moved back, I was around like this spiritual crowd, and we were going to all these different communities, and I'm going to communities with my mum and dad. And then there's these people that talk about angels, and you hear Galactic Federation, and you hear um, Palladians, Acurians, all these names. So again, I'm always cautious of when people say all this stuff, because a lot of it was searching outside yourself, and a lot of these people that were explaining it weren't passionate. And one of the ladies, really well known around the world, was big on angels. And I reached out to her. She kindly invited me around her house, and I asked her questions about angels. And this is what I did enjoy, is the fact that I got to ask questions, and she was able to answer them. What was quite interesting, when she said about angels, I'm like, what am I looking out for? And she got out some photos, and the photos were like lights of orbs. And you might have had photos on your phone where you see like an orb of light, and that's an angel. But the way that she delivers her content in the books and her cards and stuff, these angel characters have gone from an orb to like a cartoon character, and they got wings and all this sort of stuff. And it's great, and it helps people start visualizing and understanding it. But what I found, because we're so attached to the way that we're taught things, that our interpretation, and the same when it comes to God, if someone's told us what God is, or an image of God, we're chasing what we've been told rather than trying to look at the whole. So people then got a understanding what angels are, and when they're meditating or when they're asking for their angels to come, all they're doing is looking for the images that were like the cartoon characters, or in God's case, a man in the sky with a beard, or in Jesus' case, it's a man who's going to come down to save us, and he's got a beard and he looks a certain way. It's a limitation. And this is why I continue to keep saying meditation, 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 because when you realize this feeling of love, and if you was to describe God as a feeling, that all it can be is love. And in that moment, I say, how would God be if this is where you are right now? You'd say, that's God. If God is that powerful, which a lot of us seem to say that he is, and he created all things, then God works within us. It's a terrible God if he's just left us on our own all the time. God's always there. God works through us. God created our body in his image. Our body is the most advanced technology. That is God. God in our body, people don't even understand it still. All the science, so we still haven't got a lack of understanding. That's God. So the first bit was this Ramakrishna, was what I liked and what interested me about his teachings was he's tried all religions: Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. He tried all, and he come to the same realization that God's the same. When I said earlier that God's communicating with us in all different ways, because we're not accepting God's, or we're not seeing the signs, or we're not knowing that that's God too, God's changing the way it has to communicate us so we do understand. And then when we have that understanding, we then share that with someone else, and someone else will say, no, that's not it. But God's communicated with that person in a different way. So the misconfusion when it comes to a lot of these religious texts from other religions where there's a number of gods. However, that's how God will communicate with us, and it will come in different forms. If God speaks through people, then there's many people in this world that are different. But we all God's children, so we all can tap into God's space. God will work through us when we're in flow. And God also comes in form and the formless, which is also an argument. But you hear about the Holy Spirit. Jesus Christ coming down to save us. Some people can't answer that question. Well, what does that look like when he does come? Does he come in the person? Does he come in spirit? Like, again, there's all these, it's the same thing, people. It's the same thing. And again, in meditation, I keep going back to it. I encourage people, try some of my meditation experiences. They're getting better and better. I call myself a portal now, and God speaks through me in these meditation experiences. Because your mind and body's calm, all there is this experience, which is your soul, God, the Father and the Spirit. That's the only way you can connect with through its one Son. That's your light, it's your energy. I'll put another link up here. Try one. They are getting better and better. And you'll see what I mean is once you're there, it starts making a lot more sense. The world gets a lot more exciting. Your life changes because your awareness changes. The lies, the deception, the anger, the fear, all of a sudden you have your knowing that that isn't the truth. Then you have a choice. So I've selected a few different things from this book, and they're small teachings, but I'm asking you, stay with this. And a lot of the people that are on this truth journey and in the truth movement and the way that we deal with others and the way that we communicate with others, the teachings are perfect for you in here as well. And I'll share just a few little intros to each one so I can relate it from my personal take on it and why it's really kind of hit home with me. So the first one that I'll do is just the part where he says, I've tried all religions and I come back to the same thing. And then they come on to God being formless or in form. And in form people is through people. And when you can start looking out, then love, joy, passion. If you see a glow around someone, if you see a smile on someone, there's a difference between acting, which I say is the opposite of God. And then people get very good at acting. They become a copycat. They see God's creation and they steal the ideas, they take the concepts, they copy the lyrics, they take the songs, and then they try to make it their own and pretend, but you can still feel it. So it's to look out for when people are talking about something that lights them up, you'll see it. And for me now, I get such an interest of just asking them more and more when you see someone, because people don't normally get to speak about their joys and passions, and someone really asking it, and you get more connections that way. So we start off with this one.
I have seen all sects and all paths. I do not care for them any more. People belonging to these sects quarrel so much. After trying all religions, I have realized that God is the whole and I am his part, that he is the Lord and I am his servant. Again, I realize he is I am he. God personal and impersonal. People dispute among themselves, saying, God is personal with form. He cannot be impersonal and formless. Like the Vaisnavas who find fault with those who worship the impersonal Brahman. When realization comes, then all these questions are settled. He who has seen God can tell exactly what he is like. As Kavira said, God with form is my mother. God without form is my father. Whom shall I blame? Whom shall I praise? The balance is even.
So until you know the whole, you're unable to know the truth. And a lot of people are very limited in their perspective because they only know it as an expert for one thing or their own experience. And something was shared on one of the books when if someone was to say, explain a chameleon for me. And let's say this is God's creation and this is God. God turns up as a chameleon. Explain a chameleon for me. And we all know what a chameleon is, right? So a chameleon changes colors based on the objects it's on. Chameleon is a red lizard-looking creature. And then someone else will say, no, it's not. Chameleon is green. They're both right, but they've only got a limited perspective because when they know the whole truth about the chameleon, they realize that it is multicolors. So our experience, we might have a godlike moment or a God moment or awakening. And in that moment, all of that was a truth. Yet God is every day. So we have to continue showing up every day. So he shows a parable on this one. And this is why I love this as well. Because it's from India, he uses animals like tigers and elephants.
Settle all disputes. Parable of the chameleon. Again, two persons were hotly disputing as to the color of a chameleon. One said, "The chameleon on that palm tree is of a red color." The other, contradicting him, replied, "You are mistaken. The chameleon is not red, but blue." Not being able to settle the matter by argument, both went to the person who always lived under that tree and had watched the chameleon in all its phases of colors. One of them asked him, "Sir, is not the chameleon on that tree red?" The person replied, "Yes, sir." The other disputant said, "What do you say? It's not red, it's blue." The person again humbly replied, "Yes, sir." The person knew that the chameleon is an animal which constantly changes colors. Thus it was that he said yes to both these conflicting statements. The Sat-Chit Ananda, the absolute existence, intelligence, bliss, likewise has many forms. The devotee who has seen God in one aspect only knows him in that aspect alone. But he who has seen him in manifold aspects is alone in a position to say with authority, "All these forms are one God, and God is multiform. He is formless and with form, and many are his forms, which no one knows."
So this parable here, and this is what I love about parables, they tell you stories, but they're relatable. Jesus spoke in parables too, and the reason why he spoke in parables, because if you just wrote it literally and made it so basic, so easy to understand, you see the people that do take God's creation and pretend it's their own and hide you from the truth or deceive, it'd be very easy just to speak a good game. Once you know God, you understand the teachings. Once you know God, you understand yourself. To know yourself and to know God, you have to let go of evil. You have to let go of doing wrong. And if we are all children of God, you can't keep doing wrong because it is a disruption inside the body. It's a disease. It's a distortion. We can see lies. The body's telling you you're lying. Your heart goes, you sweat, your stomach in your mouth. Like we know when people lie, and that's God saying that's not the truth. So at some point you're going to get found out, and this is why the collective part is next. If you're not listening, if you're not paying attention, we're going to do it through a collective. So the awakening is all truths are going to be revealed from light, from dark to light. That's the darkness within us too. It's all coming out. And because there's a system of a dark world, the people as a collective then going into a new world, which is already created for us, God's space, the kingdom of heaven, people are going to be protecting their space because you only can go in there in love. So to get into that space, you have to come from God, but that means people as the royalty, kings, ask king, as king, asking questions about other people, they're going to have to speak their truth then. And the technology and the way that things are being recorded for us now, there's no getting away from it. So to prove yourself is to turn up as yourself, to let go and let God.
He is with form, yet he is formless. He is personal, yet he is impersonal. And who can say what other aspects he may have? Parable of the elephant and the blind men. 4 blind men went to see an elephant. One touched the leg of the elephant and said, "The elephant is like a pillar." The second touched the trunk and said, "The elephant is like a thick club." The third touched the belly and said, "The elephant is like a huge jar." The fourth touched the ears and said, "The elephant is like a big winnowing basket." Then they began to dispute among themselves as to the figure of the elephant. A passerby, seeing them thus quarreling, asked them what it was about. They told him everything and begged him to settle the dispute. The man replied, "None of you has seen the elephant. The elephant is not like a pillar. Its legs are like pillars. It is not like a big water jar. Its belly is like a water jar. It is not like a winnowing basket. Its ears are like winnowing baskets. It is not like a stout club. Its trunk is like a club. The elephant is like the combination of all these." In the same manner do those sectarians quarrel, who have seen only one aspect of the deity. He alone, who has seen God in all his aspects, can settle all disputes.
So this parable here is a great one. It's God resides in all things. And a lot of the time, because God resides in all things, people take that literally too, is that, oh, God cannot hurt me if I'm God too, and I'm just going to stay here. And my dad actually shared, I'm not sure where it's from, but he was saying how there was this massive flood and everyone evacuated this town. And one of the families decided to go, and the guy just stayed there on his own and said, "I'm staying here. I'm with God. I'm always connecting with God." And he was sitting on this roof watching everything go past. And first of all, these people turn up in a boat to say, "Come on, you need to get out of here. It's not safe for you." And he's like, "No, no, no, that's fine. I'll stay." And next, the helicopter comes, sees him, and the water's rising. He's like, "No, no, it's fine. I'm with God." And the next thing, a massive wave of water comes and takes him out, and he dies and wakes up in heaven. And he says to God, why did that happen? I said I'm with God and I'm always connecting with you. Well, God said you wasn't listening. I sent the flood first of all. That was a warning. I then sent the local people to come get you with a boat to get you out safely. You ignored that. I then sent a helicopter to your place in the middle of your street, and you ignored that too. I gave you the signs. So look out for the signs. It doesn't always be all rosy. We're in this awakening. There's a lot of darkness too. There's a lot of times where you go through your life where you might be in a situation, but before that, something gave you a little warning. Pay attention to those warnings. That's your intuition. That's your soul. That's your gut feeling. I like to use power of 3 as well. It's how I work on everything now. So if I get a sign and something doesn't seem right, I pay attention. And then if something else happens again, I'm really paying attention. I'm always like, that's too coincidental, and there's no such thing as coincidences. If it happens a third time or something similar, it's an instant no, not going there. Regardless of what it is that I'm doing, if I'm meant to be going out, if I'm meant to be meeting someone, if I'm meant to be purchasing something, and I get like things like that, and sometimes they come in a quick flurry, I don't go, I don't do it. I say no. So pay attention. So this is a parable which I thought was brilliant and just stayed with me. It's about an angry elephant. And you can see how limited his perspective was when there was one extra person there.
Know that God resides in all things animate and inanimate. Hence everything is an object of worship, be it men, beasts or birds, plants or minerals. In our relation with men, all that we can do is to take heed to ourselves, that we mix with good people and avoid bad company. It is true, however, that God resides in bad people also. Yes, even in a tiger. But surely it does not follow that we should embrace a tiger. It may be asked, why should we run away from a tiger when God is dwelling in that form? To this, the answer is that God abiding in our hearts directs us to run away from the tiger. Why should we not obey his will? Parable of the Disciple and the Mad Elephant. In a certain forest there lived a sage who had a number of disciples. He taught his disciples the truth. God dwells in all things. Knowing this, you should bend your knee before every object. One day a disciple went out into the forest for wood. On his way he saw a man riding a mad elephant and shouting, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! This is a mad elephant!" The disciple, instead of running away, remembered his master's teaching and began to reason. God is in the elephant as well as in me. God cannot be hurt by God, so why should I run away? Thus thinking, he stood where he was and saluted the elephant as he came near. The driver, Mahout, kept on shouting, "Get out of the way!" But the disciple would not move until he was snatched up by the mad elephant and dashed to one side. The poor boy, bruised and bleeding, lay on the ground unconscious. The sage, hearing of the accident, came with his other disciples to carry him home. When after some time the unfortunate pupil recovered consciousness, he described what had happened. The sage replied, "My boy, it is true that God is manifest in everything, but if he is in the elephant, is he not equally manifest in the driver, Mahout? Tell me why you did not pay heed to the warning of the driver." God in everything.
So this teaching, for me, is a really powerful one. Through this truth movement, I've been met with so much resistance, and I stand on my truth. I get name calls, I've had death threats, I've had people hunt me down, people turn up my house in nowhere, people try to kill me. And I realize it's all elements of trying to defeat God. And sometimes my ego goes off of the way that I respond to people is the same all the time. I stand on it. And people say, "Well, that's not so much of a soul coach. You talk about love and light, and then you speak like that." I'm direct, and I call people lazy, grumpy, moody, negative. I never go personal, ever. Never make it about them, but I say the same things. And people looking in sometimes will say, "Well, that's a bit much." This teaching has really helped me confirm that no, you have to put your protection barriers in too. So it's really important on there.
In the sacred scriptures, it is written, God dwells in water, but some water can be used for divine service or for drinking purposes, some for bathing or washing, while dirty water cannot be touched even. In the same manner, although God resides in all human beings, still there are good men and bad men. There are lovers of God and those who do not love God. We should recognize divinity in all, but we should not mix with bad people or with those who do not love God. Our relation with them must not be very close. It is wise to avoid the company of such people. Narendra, what attitude should we hold when wicked people come to disturb our peace or do actually offend us? A person living in society should have a little tamas, the spirit of resisting evil. Resistance for purposes of self-protection. But this is necessary only for outward show, its object being to prevent the wicked from doing harm to you. At the same time, you should not do actual injury to another on the ground that he has done injury to you. Parable of the Snake and the Holy Man. There was a very large venomous snake in a field. No one dared to go that way. One day a holy man, Mahatma, passed by that road, and the serpent ran after the sage to bite him. But when the snake approached the holy man, he lost all his ferocity and was overpowered by the gentleness of the yogi. Seeing him, the sage said, "Well, my friend, think you to bite me?" The snake was abashed and made no reply. At this the sage continued, "Hearken, friend, do not injure anyone in future." The snake bowed and nodded assent. The sage went his way, and the snake entered his hole, and thenceforth began to live a life of innocence, without attempting to harm anyone. In a few days all the neighborhood concluded that the snake had lost his venom and was no longer dangerous. So everyone began to tease him. They pelted him with stones or dragged him mercilessly by the tail, and there was no end to his troubles. Fortunately, the sage again passed that way, and seeing the bruised, battered condition of the snake, was very much moved and inquired the cause. "Holy sir," the snake replied, "this is because I do not injure anyone after your advice. But alas, they are so merciless." The sage, smiling, said, "My friend, I simply advised you not to bite anyone, but I did not tell you not to frighten others. Although you should not bite any living creature, still you should keep people at a distance by hissing at them." And Sri Ramakrishna added, "There is no harm in hissing at wicked men and at your enemies, showing that you can protect yourself and know how to resist evil. Only you must be careful not to pour your venom into the blood of your enemy. Resist not evil by causing evil in return."
So again, another simple comparison. And we work in analogies and we work in stories so we can relate to. Remember, it's all God's creation. So this is what I love now. For my teaching, I can use examples in our life at this moment in time where we have got a better understanding. We have technology now. We have means of travel that people didn't have back then. So what was in the books back then was great for back then, and it still rings true now. However, the world's evolved, so we got many means and ways of communicating God and teaching about God through it. Just use the example of the water. It's perfect.
Different aspects of divinity. God is not only personal and with form, but he can take the form of Krishna, Christ, or any other incarnation. It is true that he manifests himself in infinite forms to fulfill the desires of his devotees. It is also true that he is formless, indivisible, existence, intelligence, bliss, absolute. Relation between God, personal and impersonal. The Vedas have described him to be both personal, with form and attributes, and impersonal, beyond all form and attributes. Do you know how this is? He is like the infinite ocean of absolute existence, intelligence, bliss. As in the ocean, intense cold will freeze a portion of the water into ice, which may float in various forms on the water. Similarly, intense devotion, bhakti, may condense a portion of divinity and make it appear in different forms. The personal God with form exists for the sake of his bhaktas, dualistic devotees. When the sun of wisdom rises, the block of ice melts and becomes water once more. Above, below, and on every side the infinite being pervades. Therefore there is a prayer in the scriptures, "O Lord, thou art personal with form. Thou art also impersonal and formless. Thou hast manifested thyself in a human form and hast lived in our midst, but in the Vedas thou art described as beyond speech and mind, unspeakable, imperceptible, and unthinkable. But it can be said that for a certain class of bhaktas he is eternally personal, and always with form. There are places where the ice never melts. It becomes crystallized."
And this is the part where it's talking about protecting yourself. It's brilliant because it's such a simple teaching, but it's do no harm to anyone else, but not to let anyone else do harm to you and they just exploit you and take advantage of you. You can see that you can put your foot down. You can stand on your truth. You can put on, remember, your ego's there as a teacher. Your ego's there as a protector. So you can put on the act. You can put on the tough guy. You can put on that voice. You can say back off. You still have love for them deep down. They're not accepting themselves yet, so I don't have to accept them too. However, in the long grand schemes, we still protect our energy. We can look back. They will come round at some point. If they don't, they'll come back round in the next pastime. And this is the whole element to this and aspect to it, is that we're only in control of ourselves. If we continue to keep showing up and working on ourselves, and working on connecting with God doesn't mean just everything you do has to be just defined as perfect, because perfect is a word and perfect is a belief from other people of what perfect should be. And a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves based on just that word. However, it's to be honest, it's to be truthful, it's to be honorable, it's to be in a position where you can reflect back and go, actually, I did mess up there. Actually, I did let go of my temper quite there. Actually, I feel bad for that part, but I learn. I take my teachings, I learn my lessons. These are all messages and a lot of meanings that we can then share with our loved ones. Everything's a journey. It's the journey of the soul, the Son of God, the individual self. And we all return to the same place anyway, but we're in a place now where we're going to find out so much more about who we are, what we're capable of, what our body can do. I like using the example of aging. Every year we get older. For the next 100 years, every year we go down a year in terms of age. We're youngin. We're youthful beings. Again, all our belief, which some of us have the knowing, we got to keep turning that into a collective knowing, which is all possible because it's God. We're infinite beings. So this is the bit where I said for standing in all truth and speaking with loved ones, speaking with strangers, people that want to get in debates and arguments and get aggressive and stuff as well. Evil people, wicked people. For me, this sums it up perfectly. So I'd say definitely listen to this, and on the comments throughout this talk, if things do resonate with you, please do leave a comment, because I really appreciate and I get excited when people have an aha moment. And a lot of people shared in one of the last ones about love that I posted. They had a lot of insights and realizations, because love is still God. And we all are love beings, we're light beings. So definitely do share on it and let me know what you think on this one. And this is the last one I'll share from this book, but you can see it's powerful, it's simple. And these are teachings that have been translated from the 1800s. So this again just focuses on God and divinity in all ways and all forms, and how God does speak through some of his chosen ones, like we've seen, Christ, Buddha, Krishna. So I just think it's just a nice way of it being explained. And again, just increases our awareness then of how we can look out for God, and how we know that actually God is everywhere. Everything that we do, all of a sudden, we know that every day we're connecting with God, ourselves, our soul. Can you see how the fear starts going away if you're in God's hands? If you're protected by God? If you're getting looked out for by God? And then as our role as messengers to share this information, when people are really down in the dumps, we help them see God in their life and help them and point them into the right direction. And people will start connecting with all this a lot more.
Love for all. One of the devotees present said, "But when a person is annoyed with me, Bhagavan, I feel unhappy. I feel that I have not been able to love everyone equally." When you feel that way, you should have a talk with that person and try to make peace with him. If you fail after such attempts, then you need not give it further thought. Take refuge with the Lord. Think upon him. Do not let your mind be disturbed by any other thing. Yes, Christ and Chaitanya have both taught us to love all mankind. A true devotee, always calm. You should love everyone because God dwells in all beings. But to wicked people you should bow down at a distance. To Bijoy, smiling. Is it true that people blame you because you mix with those who believe in a personal God with form? A true devotee of God should possess absolute calmness and never be disturbed by the opinions of others. Like a blacksmith's anvil, he will endure all blows and persecutions and yet remain firm in his faith and always the same. Company of the wicked. Wicked people may say many things about you and blame you, but if you long for God, you should endure with patience. One can think on God even dwelling in the midst of wicked people. The sages of ancient times who lived in forests could meditate on God although surrounded by tigers, bears, and other wild beasts. The nature of the wicked is like that of a tiger or bear. They attack the innocent and injure them. You should be especially cautious in coming in contact with the following. First, the wealthy. A person who possesses wealth and many attendants can easily do harm to another if he so desires. You should be very guarded in speaking with him. Sometimes it may even be necessary to agree with him in his opinion. Second, a dog. When a dog barks at you, you must not run, but talk to him and quiet him. Third, a bull. When the bull chases you, you should always pacify him by talking to him. Fourth, a drunkard. If you make him angry, he will call you names and swear at you. You should address him as a dear relative. Then he will be happy and obliging. When wicked people come to see me, I am very careful. The character of some of them is like that of a snake. They may bite you unawares. It may take a long time and much discrimination to recover from the effects of that bite, or you may get so angry at them that you will wish to take revenge. It is necessary, however, to keep occasionally the company of holy men. Through such association, right discrimination will come.
Again, I love this. So that's from the Gospels of Ramakrishna. I'll leave the link below as well. A lot of these book suggestions now, I'll put the links for Audible on there. And I do encourage people, they're easy listens, really easy. And then again, you'll see how we overcomplicate everything else. All these teachings come within. All these teachings open up the door for us to make sense of it. The sense is within. All of these teachings also show how everything else in life is a comparison. It's a duality. It's an argument. It's a complete opposite. So it helps us start going on our journey, because that it's a solo journey, and it allows us to easily make decisions in moments that actually straight away, I know that's not a truth. I can feel it, I can see it, I can hear it. Your senses are now telling you. Presence, pre-sense. It already knows. You just now have to tune into that, God's energy, the truth, and then use your mind to say, yes, I'm continuing, or no, because it's not that knowing inside the body. Any questions, please do let me know. And a lot of these teachings I am taking into the meditations now as my creation. And this is why I feel like they are enhancing, just because of my understanding and just because of the way it has been simplified so much and hidden from us. If you think about it, I've never even heard of Ramakrishna until started looking into it. And it's got me fascinated that the more you start realizing that there is to know, the more you realize how little we truly do not know. And there's so much for us then to go into life learning. For me, it's the best part, because it all comes back to us as the individual. The schools that we were born into and the systems and stuff make learning boring because they teach you things that are not relevant. So when we come out of school, the last thing we want to do is go learn again because of the conditioning. So it's changed everything for me, and it allows me to have better conversations with people, and also listen to the way it's shared, because I do pick up now where people are genuinely interested in learning. And when I know when people are chatting absolute nonsense and lying, and I can ask questions then where they catch their self out. So people, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I've also now got a memberships option as well, which you can support me. You can then also join the online community that I have, which is an exclusive group, to jump on the live meditations. And also you're in a safe space where there's aspects of soul coaching. And then on the last membership feature, there is a soul coaching community. And every week is a 90-minute soul coaching call with myself and other people that are taking their spiritual journey to the next level. And we're all going on a journey together. This awakening and paying attention to what's going on in the world at the moment is preparing us. And a lot of us are ready deep down. And the next part of the readiness is to really get to know who we are. And then going into the new world, we're going to have so much purpose and so much passion and pleasure of what is to come and present us. So take care, everyone. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you very, very soon.